Okay.
Well, I'm going to apologize off the hop. We had a little bit of a scheduling snafu. However, me and Kevin are going to talk about the Barracuda tonight. And yeah, so that's going to start right now. But as always, if you want to be part of the show, hit us up in the YouTube chat, help us on all the social media channels, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the good stuff. Yeah, so here we go. Tonight it is myself, it is Kevin Lacy. We're going to talk some Barracuda. If you have any questions about the Barracuda in the chat, we'll do best to answer it. We did have a scheduling snafu with Nick. We will get him on at some point. It's kind of on me anyway, so I do apologize if you were hoping to hear Nick Nolenberger's thoughts. We will definitely get them. We're just gonna have to reschedule for a different time. But in the meantime, Kevin
Hey,
Lacy,
hey, you got us. You got us. I
right?
know, if it really makes you feel better, it's like 80 degrees in my house. I'll go throw the turtleneck on. I mean, I had a few people this weekend at the opening games at the Barracuda saying, it's hockey season when we see you wearing your white turtleneck, Kevin. And I really appreciated that. So if that's what it's going to take to make everyone happy out there in YouTube land and on the the on demand services and everything, I'll go throw the turtleneck on. But I'd prefer to just have the nice, mellow, calm Barracuda chat with you tonight, Ian. How's everything going?
Not bad, not bad. I mean, it's been an interesting start to the season. I think on both in the NHL and on the AHL team. I think when you look at the NHL team, this is probably the most wounded the Sharks have ever um, come into the season in a long time. I don't remember a time where the Sharks were this banged up at the start of the season.
Yeah, yeah. Both
Mm-hmm.
teams, the Sharks and the Barracuda, because the Barracuda lost Tristan Robbins during I think the last 20 seconds of the last preseason game. Artem Guryev and Gannon Larocque both told me they're hurt right now, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why they didn't play in either game this weekend. And I believe I'm actually missing another player. So having Ozzy Weisblatt go down to suspension on top of that, yeah, both teams really, really reeling from the non-roster issues, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's the tricky thing, and something that it's I don't know what to make of this year's team. And I was kind of hoping Nick would tell us what to make of it, because I don't know what to make of like this team. It's crazy how much the team has changed from last year to this year as far as personnel. Like obviously that's the norm on an AHL squad. Obviously new faces are going to come in to replace, guys that obviously are going to get called up. Like you have Eklund and Bordalo who made the team out of camp and look like they are probably going to stay there for at least a little while. I think Eklund, it will take a lot for him to get sent back down. Bordalo, I'm not sure is gonna stay there forever. Like I think if a guy has to come down, I think Bordalo is probably the guy that's gonna go down between out of the two of them first.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
think
so
I, I think what's nice about it, since you mentioned those players, is while the injuries suck, the non-roster issues suck right now. What
mhm.
it is allowing for is some players to get some early opportunities to make a name for themselves, like you said, Eklund, like Bordalo. But even at the AHL level, guys like Ethan Frisch,
Mhm.
Anthony Vincent getting in the lineup, Roman Canal. The Barracuda, we say it every single offseason. How many players is Joe Will going to try to fit in on this roster? I mean,
Yeah.
we get into 30 to 35 players, and yet halfway through the season, suddenly we're struggling. I mean, the Barracuda trust a tryout player, Matt Friedel, in game 2 of the season already with a huge roster. So guys are getting opportunities early, and we'll see if they can capitalize on it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'm glad you mentioned Anthony Vincent because I thought that line with him, Adam Raska, and who else was it? Kaspic?
On Saturday's game,
Sat-
I believe so,
yeah,
because
like that line was
It was
so
Saber and
impressive.
Kaspic and Weisblatt on Friday.
Like I really like that. Like I thought like Adam Raska, a guy who wasn't in the lineup game, for the first game, and I think has definitely guys breathing down his throat now. Like Adam Raska's been around for a while, but I really liked his game because I thought that that fourth line, whenever they were on the ice, like they were pushing play, which is what you want to see from the fourth line. But Adam Raska kind of impressed me because, like, again, it's one game, so I don't want to get too carried away here. But a guy who, much like Ozzy Weisblatt, who we'll discuss for sure, a guy who his most effectiveness is going to be when he has to play on that line without going over. And I was really impressed because Adam Raska, I thought, last season got himself into a lot of dumb penalty trouble, and I thought just a completely different player, at least in one game.
Yeah, Adam Rashka, I think, has had a problem. Obviously, the goals have not come for him the way they did in juniors and in
Right.
his World Junior career as well. But Adam Rashka, do feel like was trying a bit too hard to stand out last season, going out, making unnecessary hits, being a little too overly physical. Let's not forget, Adam Raska is a guy who's only 5'10", 5'11", something like that. So while he can go and bang and crash and all that stuff at this level, you don't want him to just wear himself down. Where if he does get an NHL opportunity on a more permanent level down the road, he hasn't killed himself in the developmental stages of his career. But I do think that, like you said, this weekend, Adam Raska was it's hard for me to explain, but like doing things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to do all the little things, but he was letting it come more naturally to him rather than just going out and make an impact and be noticeable. He was just going about playing a steady game. And you're right, that fourth line with Kaspic and Vincent and Raska was very settling for the rest of the team. They went out and did their jobs, and it allowed the other lines to kind of go, okay, you guys did the dirty work. Now we're going to go score goals.
Yeah. And I mean, Kaspic even, I think, scored a goal that game. I mean, it was a lot of goals that game. But yeah,
So
I mean, like, it was good.
Yeah, you talked about what do we make of this team, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously 2 games into the season, you're going to have a lot of turnover year over year, or in the case this year, the entire veteran core from last year is gone. We were saying you got to bring back Pouliot, you got to bring back Chris Quello, you got to bring
Mm-hmm.
back Agostino. All those players are gone, and even younger players from the start of last season, like Jasper Weatherby, gone.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got Nathan Todd and Cole Castles, Tanner Kaspic. Justin Bailey was the guy I really wanted to talk to Nick about. So next time
Yeah.
Nick's on the show, I'm going to put Nick on the hot seat a little bit. So there's a little teaser for you out there. Be sure to subscribe going forward here, because the next time we do one of these with Nick, I'm going to put Nick on the hot seat about Justin Bailey. But this new leadership core, I do think one theme through only 2 games has persisted. For those of you longtime listeners, longtime viewers know, I said last season was a very Jekyll and Hyde season for the Barracuda.
Yeah.
It felt like they had a lot of back-to-back games against the same team, just like they did this weekend, back-to-back against Rockford. That first game, they seemed very unprepared, overwhelmed, just not having that dog in them in the first game. And then the second game was always a much better effort, performance. They made adjustments, and the adjustments are fine. But here we are again through 2 games. The Barracuda lose 7-2, and then they flip it around and win 7-2. You can't get more hot cold than that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Something to me, and I don't know, like, I'm curious your thoughts on this, because I know we kind of talked about this off air, but, and some people are going to be like, Ian, Adam Raska killed a guy. Like, you want to talk about discipline? I think that hit really skews things, though, because I think that's the one thing I noticed the
Ozzy
most.
Weisblatt or Adam Raska?
No, Weisblatt killed a guy.
Okay, Ozzy Weisblatt.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, aside from that penalty, like the major penalty, now I know that Sabrin, I think, got a 10-minute, thing for for making the rest.
Chirping.
But that doesn't hurt the team. Like, yes, he has to sit in the box for 10 minutes, but that doesn't put them shorthanded. I thought the one thing that I noticed so far with this team is I think they were a little more disciplined, other than the Adam Raska hit, which obviously not only was it an awful hit, not only was it like there's just the puck wasn't there. It was like completely unnecessary. And God, did they get burned on that penalty kill. But aside from that, like, I didn't see so far, again, 2 games in, I didn't see a lot of the dumb penalties that plagued this team last year.
Yeah, Ian, and I know that was that's stuck in your craw. I mean, it's stuck in my craw too, but I know that really hit hard on you last season. Just it was very frustrating at times.
Well, like
to watch
the Jeff VL, like it's like, oh, they scored and it's tied, and now Jeff VL took a dumb penalty right after they score, and then like everything goes off the rails, right? Like I just felt like that was a thing that happened way too many times last year. But that's the one game that always stood out to me was the
but it's true. Like it was the biggest example of the lack of discipline last year. When you take a penalty while scoring a goal, what are you guys doing? So no, you're absolutely right. I do think they Rockford was a very physical team this weekend. So the Barracuda managed to hold pace with that, but you're right. They did not go overboard. In that first game, it was kind of tit for tat. And then Weisblatt, I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Josh Healy, because he, as a defenseman for the Ice Hogs, was really agitating that Savarin, Kaspic, and Weisblatt line there the first night. And I feel like something happened there where something got under Weisblatt's skin. I mean, that's not the player he injured. It was Cale Howarth of Rockford there. But, I feel like that kind of got Weisblatt a little bit too amped up. And I feel like last season we saw a bit of that where Jason Demers, on our good buddy Keegan McNally, shout out to Keegan from yesteryear, and Keegan's podcast was saying Jason Demers talked about how much of a thorn in the side Ozzy Weisblatt was last season, and to the point where Demers would start chirping him and kind of get Weisblatt off his game and knowing he could goad him into a stupid penalty.
Right.
And so when you see that in game 1, it's like, oh, Ozzy, you gotta learn your lesson from this. So hopefully, he can calm it down, because he's a good hockey player. Ian,
I love Ozzy Weisblatt. Like, it's funny because like the intermission before that hit happened, like I had this paragraph on Twitter singing the praises of Ozzy Weisblatt, which is the kiss of death. Like if I say nice things about a player and any time on Twitter, it seems like my powers are never for good. Like they're always end up for evil. But like, and I was saying, like, the one thing that I was saying on Twitter, and I got some pushback from some people, like, I understand that Ozzy Weisblatt is a first round pick, but he's like the last pick of that round, second last pick of that round. Like he's a glorified second. Like, I don't want to be a jerk, but that's the reality of it, right? Like and I think that sometimes like there's a lot of pressure on first round picks to just be, to be great, when in a situation like his, like, yeah, he's a first round pick, but he's at the very end of the round, and the round is huge now because there's 32 teams in this league. But the thing with Weisblatt is, I think that he is a guy that if you can get, like, if he can find the line of, between just like being a super agitator, hard hitter, grinder guy, but if he can find that line and put 15 goals on the board a season, like every team needs that guy.
Absolutely.
Every team needs that guy. Like, I know it's like you're like, oh, 15 goals for a first round pick, like for a season, like that really sucks. But I just think, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think people just need to get over the draft position and look at the player and be like, okay, if you can get this out of that player.
One of my favorite examples to the point you're making is Manny Malhotra. Now you get the Matt Johnsons of the world and stuff, where the first round pick, and you go, what? But I feel like so much is been built up with draft and development now that like teams are pretty smart, and it's more of a situational thing when a player falters rather than a talent skill situation. But that was a horrible sentence, but I'm going to move on. But Manny Malhotra was, I believe, a 6th or 7th overall pick, not lighting the world on fire. So, in today's world, who went 6th overall in this year's draft?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Philip Zadina went. Philip Zadina went.
And I did the
know
draft,
Zach
Chill.
Benson was 6th on my list,
sure.
for example. So like Zach Benson, hugely offensive upside. Manny Malhotra, not so much. But Manny Malhotra
is like one of the best face-off guys of his generation.
One of the best face-off guys, one of the best defensive forwards,
mm-hmm.
a damn fine hockey player. Remember, the Sharks signed him to a 3-year contract, and boy, oh boy, how good was he those years? Like, he was exceptional. So, like, I hope Ozzy Weisblat has that kind of trajectory. Would I expect Weisblat to be a 10-goal scorer in the NHL? Maybe. I'd settle for 7, to be honest. But as long as he's got all the rest of the qualities, which I think he does,
mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to worry about Ozzy Weisblat. I know that you're on the same side here. But
yeah, 100%. Like I think that I see a future for him on the NHL club. I just, again, I think if you just get past but he was a first round pick, I think like if you look at the type of player he is and like you really watch him play. No, again, like he has to find the line, right? Because the guy that I always liken him to is a Raffi Torres.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, Raffi Torres. What was he, like a 7th overall pick or something? He didn't score a ton of goals either.
But I mean, the guys on his team loved him, and no one liked to play against him, right? And that's, to me, like, obviously Raffi Torres did take liberties on guys, and I don't want to see Weisblat go down that road.
Sure.
But if he can find that line, like, again, like there's room for that guy on an NHL team.
Yeah. But hopefully it's Weisblat, and here's kind of the difference between Weisblat and Raska in the two games is hopefully Weisblat got kind of caught up in the moment. He goes, oh man, I'm out here with Tanner Kaspick and Scott Sabarin. We're going to wreck some fools tonight, And then he goes out and wrecks Cale Howarth, and it's like, oh no. But versus Adam Raska the next night, where it's controlled chaos. He goes out, be physical, but keeps everything in line, and puck possession all the way for that 4th line in that second game. So yeah, I'm hoping he just kind of got caught up with the opening night, who he was playing with on that line, and he'll settle down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, because I think, like, again, he's
5th overall Raffi Torres.
Yeah, 5th overall Raffi Torres. There you go. Like, he's a player that I love. Just for all the reasons that I've labeled out. But obviously, again, but that is a guy who has to find the line, and so far he's had a very difficult job finding it, and that does give me concern, right? Because that is a guy who, it's like he's one of those guys where I think you need him on a team, but he can also hurt you, right? Like if he's a guy that you're depending on and he goes out and kills a guy in, game 1 of a playoff series and gets suspended for the rest of the series, then what good is he? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's a guy that I really love. I hope he can find the line. But I think like I said though, aside from that hit, I didn't think the Barracuda were super undisciplined. So and again, it's 2 games, so I don't want to completely be like everything's solved. They're a disciplined team now, but I'm happy so far with the level of discipline that they've shown.
You hope that the Barracuda will have a little bit more resolve and not give up as easily, not fold as easily. Fold's probably a better word than give up, as they did last season, because the Barracuda were very much in that game until the Weisblat hit on Howarth. So
and then everything went their penalty kill has not been good this year.
Yeah. And remember how atrocious the penalty kill was last year too. Yeah. So They cannot. In fact, I'm not going to name names on this one, but I did speak with a higher up in the organization over the weekend, and he was like, we can't be taking penalties. We can't kill a damn penalty to save
Right.
our lives. He didn't use those words, but that's essentially the intent that he was saying. And it's like, yeah, man, like internally they even know like gotta play a disciplined game because right now at this level of development, guys need to improve their defensive skills and figure out their roles and everything like that. Stay out of the box. It makes things way easier. And they pretty much did that after the Weisblatt hit there, but too little, too late. It really gave Rockford that advantage that they needed to just seize control and go with it. Joey Anderson with 3 assists. I don't even think Joey Anderson got a star. Thought he got robbed there, but
Yeah.
yeah. I want to talk about another player here, a player we really like, who trended upward all the way last season. I was raving by the end of the season. Daniil Gushchin. I thought he was a little bit invisible those 2 games, and now, as of tonight, he is losing the scoring race to former Barracuda goalie Strauss Mann, who scored scored a shorthanded goal, no less. Granted, Rochester threw the puck down into their own net after taking a shot on Strauss-Mann. But Strauss-Mann has 1 goal and Daniil Gushchin has 0. Let that record stand. So, should we be worried about Daniil Gushchin through 2 games?
I thought he was better in the second game, but I mean the whole team was better. The thing with Gushchin is he is a guy who I think he's a guy who needs to be surrounded. I like the player. I think he's good, but I think he needs he needs supporting cast.
Sure.
I don't think he's a guy I think Daniil Gushchin is at his least effective when he tries to do everything himself, and I don't think that's what he was trying to do in either of these 2 games. But I don't think you can see the kind of the void of the players that are up front. I think a guy like Tristan Robbins would do a guy like Gushkin a world of good.
100%. Yeah, that is true. That's a huge injury right now. So that slides some wings over back to center. I think Ryan Carpenter is a center on this team, but I think Nathan Todd should be a winger, and I think he was taking some draws, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken, but and with Jacob Peterson being called up, that's another center who
that hurts. Yeah, again, there's the forward group is just with Tristan Robbins out, Eklund and Bordelot on the big club, Jacob Peterson getting called up right away like that. I think this forward group isn't very exciting this year.
Hey.
I'm
a lot more excited than I was 6 weeks ago before Justin Bailey and Cole Castles and Tanner Kaspick
sure.
Oscar Lindblom were added. So
yeah, I mean I think Lindblom's been fine. I think he's a guy who should do well at the AHL level. I think Lindblom is a weird case to me, right? He's a guy who I think has all the tools. I don't know if it's between the ears or what's going on with him.
I mean, he's a guy, my stats may be wrong here, but off the top of my head, I think he had 10 goals in 23 games in the NHL before his cancer diagnosis. Yeah. So he's got the talent. Obviously, that was a huge thing to recover from. And who's to say he is ever fully recovered? But I liked Lindblom's game, Ian.
Yeah.
I thought he was very noticeable, as he should be.
Yeah, he should be, right? This is a guy that if he's going to be on your AHL club, he has to be a go-to guy.
Yeah. He can't just settle in and then just be one of the guys, because then he's never going to get called back up. He's never going to get that opportunity. But you also, I mean, you have 2 ways of looking at it, I feel like, with this type of demotion, because he's been in the NHL for several years now at this point. So you can take it as I I'm not an AHLer. What am I doing here? Or
Right.
I'm going to go out and do everything I can to get called back up. And I feel like Lindblom's the latter on that. I feel like he's got a good head on his shoulders. And so I
Yeah.
hope he continues to play well. He did score in the second game.
I do.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I like again. He's an easy guy to root for. I want to see him do well. I think again. Like I think I don't. You could come down to the HL and you could sulk like you said, and I don't think he's done that so far. I wonder. You always wonder how it's going to affect him like long term if he's down there, and I don't think there's going to be an opening for Lindblom to get up to the NHL club anytime soon. Based on like the guys they've called up, like I'm sure when Jacob Peterson got called up, like Lindblom's probably like, "Oh man, I'm so screwed,"
yeah.
and it would be really easy to sulk. And so far, I mean, I've liked his play. I think again, he's if he's going to be on the HL club, he has to be. The talent is there. I think it's just putting it all together at the NHL level. I wonder if this is a situation where his contract runs out and he has to go to Europe and kind of refine his game there.
Yeah, possibly. I hope not though, because sometimes that's a one-way street.
It
Like
sure
Lindblom may end up
100%.
over there, and then suddenly Swiss team or a Swedish team's throwing a lot of money in a 4-year contract, and we
Yeah.
never see Oscar Lindblom again. So,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I want good things for the guy. A guy who I've kind of soured on a little bit, and I don't know. I'm curious to get your take on is Brandon Coe.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew it. I knew it.
I've kind of soured. He is AHL Luke Cunnin.
AHL Luke Cunnin. All right. Well, hey, Brandon Coe has the as far as I never actually went back to look at this. I know I tweeted it. Has the distinction of having the opening goal in each of the 2 openers at TexU Arena.
Okay,
He scored, I believe he scored the first goal against Henderson last year, and he scored the first goal against Rockford on Friday night.
that's true. Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I
so he's
just
got
feel
that
like
going
he's
for
the
him.
guy who like he gets a lot of opportunities, but just doesn't do enough with them.
Yeah. I feel like Brandon Coe, my thing is his strength. Like for a guy who's 6'4", 6'5", he should not be getting shoved off the puck
Yeah.
as easily as he is. And I feel like that's a huge part of it. So I think his lanes are questionable. Like sometimes I feel like he doesn't open himself up to, I mean, he did obviously on his goal. He was wide open in front of the net on that goal Friday, but he doesn't really open himself up too much. Like he's got to pick a different path to the net, whether it's with or without the puck. And I think that's a big part of it because he doesn't back check enough for me to think that he can be put into a defensive role. And yet he keeps finding ways to find himself on the third and fourth line. That's what happened his rookie year, last year, and so far, obviously 2 games. But
Yeah,
he did
again.
get that goal. But I didn't think much of him either, Ian. And even there were a couple times where he had the puck down low, and I'm thinking to myself, well, there's Brandon Coe again. Really wish I'd notice him a lot more. There is a lot to be desired, I feel like, in his game, and it is frustrating because when he was drafted in the 5th round there a few years ago, I thought he was a guy who could really make a name for himself as a boom or bust. But so far, I'm waiting for him to boom.
Yeah, I like and. And right, and like I want to emphasize 2 games, right? Like I know AHL Luke Cunnin might be a little harsh, but
Brandon Coe's, this is now his 3rd year in the AHL,
right?
So
yeah. What have you thought of the goaltending so far? Obviously, goaltending's completely new this year, as we kind of alluded to earlier. I mean, not completely new. Obviously, Mäkiniemi is not healthy yet. He will be back at some point.
That's the one I forgot. Mäkiniemi's hurt still too. Yeah. Nice guy, by the way. I got to chat with Mäkiniemi, Krona, and Romanov. Krona was thank you very much, blah blah blah. Romanov was like, I loved his charisma. During the game. He won the game. He goes all the way across the ice to celebrate. Like he was so jazzed to win that game on Saturday, and then talking with him after, definite language barrier with Romanov for sure. But you can tell like he's got a personality. So once the English comes around, as long as the on ice performance is there, uh, he's gonna be a fun goalie to watch. But the goaltending on the whole,
Hmm.
I'm not the biggest Magnus Krona guy, and I thought he was actually fine on Friday. I didn't think the 7 goals against was an accurate reflection of his game, but I also
No.
did not feel like Magnus Krona showed any signs of being able to keep the team in it.
Hmm.
And so we'll see there. Obviously, that's only his first professional game, but I temper expectations on Krona. Romanov is a project. This is the first time I've seen him besides the development camp. But I thought his positioning was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So there were a few times where his reflexes were a little bit behind, but because his positioning and his size are attributes, that allowed him to make some of the saves. So I think so far so good for him.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Honestly, like when they brought Romanov in, I didn't think much of the signing. I was kind of like, I guess, like, is this a
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
that's, I'm like,
We learned
oh,
our lesson from Melnichuk
right. I
and
just,
Armalis.
like, I didn't think anything of the signing. It didn't really excite me at all. I thought I thought he was going to be this year's Strauss man on the Wichita Shuttle. And maybe that's where he ends up, or maybe that's where Magnus Krone ends up. I don't know. Like, obviously, so far, again, 1 game each, so I don't want to lay waste to either of these guys. But I was pleasantly surprised by Romanov because I didn't think much of him in the rookie games either. Like, I thought he's fine, but like rookie games, again, like rookie
Yeah,
games are fun, but that's what they are. They're fun, right? Like, I don't
yeah.
think when it comes to goaltending, especially, you can't really. There's not much you can get from the
Hey,
rookie
look
games.
look how good a lot of the Barracuda players from last season played during the rookie face-off there at TexU Arena,
Hmm.
and the Barracuda finished 28th overall in the
Yeah,
AHL.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think goaltending, like, there's not really much you can glean from the rookie face-off game. So I was pleasantly surprised. Again, this is a guy who I didn't have high expectations for. I thought that it's gonna be Makiniemi, Corona, and then Romanov getting starts here and there, and then probably on the Wichita Shuttle, and then obviously they also have Beckworm, I believe, is down in Wichita as well. I'm
yes,
assuming.
yes.
So I thought having 4 goalies was certainly a choice. um, but
But I mean, with McIniemi's injury history, though, I mean, all
yeah,
it takes is one more goalie to go down, and suddenly Beck Warm is playing 15 games this season.
right,
So
yeah, no,
I,
that's true.
yeah.
And plus,
um,
you don't know what the Sharks are going to do. Like, this is the last year of Capo Kakinen's contract. Now, I don't think you're going to have a ton of takers for Capo Kakinen at the deadline, but stranger things have happened, and then someone has to go up and back up Blackwood,
yep,
right? So I,
yeah,
you know, I, I
absolutely.
I kind of understood it, but I thought, it was like surprising. I was surprised that Aaron Dell wasn't in the mix this year. Like, I really thought he was gonna be here. Like, I'm just like,
I
no, Aaron
had
Dell will be here.
I had Aaron Dell penciled in my Barracuda depth chart up until the tryout he got with the Blue Jackets, because I was so like, he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be
I know we
back.
have
I
like
know.
4 goalies, but Aaron Dell will find his way back somehow. No, but one thing again, talked earlier in this show about having opportunities.
Hmm.
Guy like Georgi Romanov comes in, definitely wins that game, does very well. So when A2 Makiniemi does eventually come back from his injury, which I feel like is kind of close, I would guess he'd be back within the next couple of weeks, because I know he is practicing with the team.
Hmm.
So I don't feel like he'd be that far off if he is practicing.
I think they're just trying
But
to be super careful, just based on everything he's gone through, and
as
I
yeah,
commend them for that. Like, I would rather them be super careful than risk than bring him back when he's not. Especially, again, like, you have 2 guys that I think are guys that should be capable at the AHL level. We'll see how they hold out over multiple games, obviously. But I feel like you've brought in guys that can carry the load. Like there's no reason to rush Makiniemi back into the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you get the situation where, hey, if Romanov can win a few more games down the stretch here in October, maybe he is the guy to back up Makiniemi, and then Krona's becomes the third goalie. I don't really know how this situation is going to play out. I completely agreed with you. I thought Krona would back up Makiniemi, and then Romanov would get a spot start here and there. But I feel like of the two games, it'll be another back-to-back here against Henderson on Friday and Saturday. But so you'll probably see each goalie start one. But I would start Romanov on Friday and see how it goes. Yeah. Also, everyone in the chat, you guys have sent in some questions, and I do want to get them. But I also, Race Fan Rocks had a couple of questions. I think we may save those for our next show. But I definitely want to get to those. One was about Justin Bailey, who, again, I want to chat with Nick about Justin Bailey. Good signing, though. Nice goal he scored there. He really looked good in the first two games. And then talking about, I don't know if you want to touch up on our divisional thoughts so far. I think being so early in the season, I think we can wait a couple more weeks to get to that.
I don't know what to again, it's the AHL's a tricky thing, right? Because obviously when we come, when I start the season, I do definitely try and keep track of the Barracuda, but I don't always I pay attention to the Barracuda, but I don't really pay attention to what else is going on in the division. I kind of just get my gleam for the division as we play 1,000 games against them. I don't prepare for the AHL season as much as I do for the NHL season, which isn't a lot to begin with. But obviously, I think when you having to do After Dark and stuff, there's only so many hours in the day. I don't want to I don't want to treat the AHL like it's bad. I don't think it's bad. Obviously, the Barracuda is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. But I just from the league level, there's so much. The Pacific Division is huge for starters.
Yeah, 10 teams again.
10-team division. It's a lot, and it's a lot to keep track of as far as who's still down and who's still up. Especially because these teams, a lot of them change wholesale. We've seen, we said earlier, the Barracuda, almost a completely different team than the one that they iced last year.
Right.
And I don't know what to make of the team that I cover, let alone tell you how the Calgary Wranglers are going to fare this year.
It's funny. I was going to bring up the Calgary Wranglers here for a second, but someone told me he thinks that Calgary's going to finish dead last in the league this year. But I'm thinking, really? Because I know they lost a few players, but they also added some of their good prospects. And Dustin Wolf is still with there. The Wranglers.
Yeah, figure that out.
I don't know either, but we'll let the dust settle on the division. We won't let it settle too much though, because we do want to give you predictions, and we don't want to go 30 games in the season and go, oh, well, Ontario's clearly going to be the first place team with their 28-2 record.
Right? Yeah. No, I think it's something that we definitely will look at. It's just it's too soon, especially with just the start of the season's hard. there's so much. There's just so much to do to start the year. A name that was
AHL, the Wranglers, not the Flames.
Yeah.
The Flames have their own problems.
The Flames do have their own problems. A name that did come up in the chat, though, we haven't touched on yet. Ethan Cardwell. What was your thoughts there?
Ethan Cardwell's a fun player to watch. He's just a fun player, and I loved his sully that he had on his goal there on Saturday. I expected no less out of a big boisterous personality like Ethan Cardwell, but he plays well. I mean, he's not the biggest guy out there, but he's got that dog in him, as they say. He's not the most physical, but he is no problem just digging in and grinding it out. And so those are the types of role players who may play third, fourth line minutes in the AHL, but then they get the call up. But I think of like a Kevin Rooney guy.
Hmm.
Kevin Rooney, never a top six guy in the AHL, but built himself a several year NHL career out of it, also playing third, fourth line minutes there. And Ethan Cardwell,
He's the guy that I slept on. I'm not gonna lie. I've this is a player that I've slept on. I know like everyone's like, oh, Ethan Cardwell's joining the team this year. It's gonna be great, and I'm like, is it though?
I don't think the offense is going to come through. I mean, I think it's going to be more than Adam Raska,
Hmm.
but I don't see Ethan Cardwell being a 25 goal scorer for the team. But I mean, I think he's going to be contributing there throughout the season. 12 to 15 goals is not you know, out of expectation, I don't think.
Yeah,
But I do like
I've
that
really liked
player.
him so far. Like it's again 2 games, but I've liked what I've seen with him so far. I think
Also,
it's a player that I've probably slept on a little bit because I'm just like,
he's
man,
also not
great.
he's also not afraid to shoot, Ian. He's already got
No,
10 shots in
I
two
know.
games.
I
Oh,
and you know what? And here's the thing, right? Like, because usually when a guy shoots a lot when he comes to the AHL, especially after playing junior, like his slot selection isn't actually that bad. Like I've
yeah.
actually liked his shot selection is actually pretty good for a guy just coming out of junior. Because I think a lot of guys come out of junior and they shoot the puck because they're just so used to just blowing the puck through goalies
Yeah.
at the junior level, and I think they get to the pro level and then they realize, like, obviously completely different players, but like Timo Meyer was a guy who just had to learn that you're in the pro game, you can't blow the puck through goalies.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
I think for Cardwell, to his credit, I've liked his shot selection so far. I think you're right, like he takes a lot of shots, but he takes a lot of good shots.
Yeah. He makes a lot of good decisions out there. Even
Hmm.
even in the I haven't watched much of his junior career to comment on that, but I have seen him at many development camps and in development games and such at this point in training camp. So I do feel like I have a decent knowledge of him. A guy who I think he can really benefit from, who was added, who I think I forgot to mention earlier,
Hmm.
is leading goal scorer through 2 games, Ryan Carpenter. Ryan Carpenter's a guy who was late blooming prospect, kind of middle six aspirations, but turned into a top AHLer and a bottom line checking NHL center there,
Hmm.
and really agitated against what am I trying to say? When the Sharks let him go and he joined Vegas, boy,
Yeah.
did he join Vegas. He was such a pest to play against in those playoffs that first year.
Yeah,
Um,
I love Ryan Carpenter, man. Like that was a signing that I was pretty happy about when I'm like, oh yeah, because I mean I was really bummed this summer, man, because like guys like Chris Scolo, we mentioned earlier, guys like Chris Scolo and Agazino, like all out the door, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And then Ryan
yeah.
Carpenter, I'm like, okay, yeah, Ryan Carpenter is a guy that I love. I'm surprised. Are you surprised that it is a committee of alternates? Because I
I
thought I had
absolutely
him
thought
penciled in as captain.
I did too. Like I got someone in our Discord chat. By the way, join the Discord chat. I don't know if we
Yes.
have the link available to you, but
Hit up
join the
at hockey
Discord chat.
underscore jerk on the
We
Twitter
do have a Barracuda. Well, actually now it's a prospects
slash
and
Barracuda.
Barracuda chat, but we do talk about players and things and take your questions in there as well. But someone did propose, who's going to be the captain with obviously Magna gone, Agazino gone. It's like Ryan
Ryan
Carpenter,
Carpenter, easy.
that's a layup,
Yeah,
but I guess it wasn't.
apparently not. Are you surprised they went with the old alternate?
Well, I think Ryan Carpenter, for one, is a player who you could see. You're talking about, Jacob Peterson getting called up.
Sure.
Oscar Lindblom might have a rough time getting called up. Yeah, in the right spot, Ryan Carpenter gets called up too. And then the
Hmm.
Barracuda are without a captain again. So I think part of that had to come into play here. I think Ryan Carpenter's here to stay with the Barracuda, but there is still that possibility he could get a call up here and there. So I think just establishing that leadership core. We obviously don't know what goes on inside the dressing room. So last
Right.
season, for example, we're talking about how undisciplined the team was, but we from our perspective thought the leadership group was pretty good. Maybe
Hmm.
it wasn't. maybe that's when they said, "Oh, we named a captain too early." I don't know. I
I
thought
mean, I
Agassi.
think the leadership group was a part of the discipline problem too, though.
Yeah,
I think Jeff Viel is a guy who they look to, like, wore a letter, right?
yeah.
A guy who's worn a letter pretty much anywhere he's ever been.
He was a captain in juniors, a
Yep.
Memorial Cup winning captain
Yep.
too.
But like he was a guy who, who put up, like, he obviously put up goals, right? But his him he helped the team and hurt the team so many times, like, and it was just trying to again find that balance where, and I love Jeff Yell, but like there's no arguing that, like, he hurt the team more than he helped it, and he put up a ton of goals last year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, sidebar.
Mhm.
Ian, did you see that fight between Jeff Viel and Alex Gallant?
Yep.
Folks,
Insane.
if you are not following us on Twitter, first off, shame on you. If you're
Shame
not
on you.
following the AHL on Twitter, then really shame on you. Oh my goodness. If you want to see a hockey fight, like old school hockey fight, Jeff Viel versus Alex Gallant is your fight to watch.
Both
Go.
former Barracuda.
We're probably going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
First thing you do after this show, get a
After-
drink of water. Second thing you do after this show,
Go watch that fight. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, what a scrap. Yeah, I don't know.
I am surprised. Ian, you surprised about the six alternate captains? What do we got? Road alternate and away? Is there road alternate and home? Is that how this is working? Like,
to me, I think it just bugs me. Like, I think it's just a gimmick that gets used too often. I think it's kind of lost. I think, like, it's just I feel like it just happens too often now, right? And these are all basically new faces as well. So I don't love it. Like, I wish they just would have named a captain, especially because the leadership group is apparently, like, all new faces anyway. Yeah. Name a captain.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm guessing at this point it's a whoever takes the reins kind of thing, but I'm thinking it's going to be Carpenter, Castles, or Bailey.
Yeah,
one of those three.
Yeah, I think they just, if your leadership group is going to be all new guys anyway, and that's kind of to me, that's also kind of an indictment of the guys that are still here. That all these new guys came in and all these new guys are wearing letters, and none of the guys were here last year are wearing letters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know who's still here? We're still here. And we'll be here throughout the season. We promise. And hopefully we'll have Nick on. We do have, I actually got a couple of guests, I think, lined up. One, pretty sure is going to happen. The other one, we'll see. But I think we're going to have a little bit more variety of our guests this season, so that'll be fun. We definitely would love for you to check out as many of our shows as possible. We kind of plan these a few days in advance or a week in advance, so we'll let you know as soon as we figure out our timing. But thank you all for joining. Thank you again for the Ricky Bartonslager. Thank you very much. We didn't even talk about Henry Thrun getting assigned to the Barracuda today. We should probably do that before we wrap
we should
up.
Yeah,
thanks Ricky.
I mean, yeah, so and it was something that I had on my list here, but
we had it on the notes.
We had it on the notes, but then I just stopped looking at the notes and we just started shooting the shit. Yeah, I mean, Henry Thrun coming down, I'm excited because I need one of these teams to be fun. Like, I desperately need one of these teams to be fun, and I don't think the fun one's gonna be the Sharks. Although the Sharks, like, they've shown signs of ability to be a little bit fun. I really need the Barracuda to be fun this year. So Henry Thrun coming down, I like it. From a strictly selfish, I'm watching Barracuda games perspective, I like it. I think he's a guy who, I think they're worried about his confidence. And I think it's a confidence thing. Plus, they've got guys healthy coming back into the lineup that would have to go on waivers to come down to the Barracuda. Henry Thrun doesn't have to clear waivers. And sometimes it's just that simple. He can go. They don't have to worry about losing anybody. That I think the Sharks value some of their 17 seventh defenseman a little too much. But from a
Look at
go ahead.
look at Nikolai Knizhov. Like, he got sent back to the
Mm-hmm.
AHL last season. And, oh, why? Look, he's back in the NHL. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
You know? So Henry Thrun, yeah, I think very highly of Henry Thrun. Like, I thought he was a decent prospect with the Ducks, and then obviously putting my teal tinted glasses on, I went, actually, I like this player a little bit more now. But I do think he's an NHL defenseman.
I do too. I think he's like his game hasn't been perfect, right? And I think the one thing I think that's frustrating about a team in a rebuild is like how quickly people will turn on some of the young guys when some of the veterans aren't giving you anything better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, has Henry Thrun's game been perfect? No, he's learning. He's learning on the job. It's playing defense in the NHL is hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's harder to be a defenseman in the NHL at a young age than it is to be a forward. Probably being a goalie is probably worse. But you know what I mean? So, like, yes, has his game been perfect? No. Is there stuff that, I'd like him to do better? Sure. But I still think that the skill set there is NHL.
And for anyone who thinks, well, he played like 8 or 9 games at the end of the last NHL season and played very well, like, how can he be sent down now?
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference in the time of the year. Jules made a great comment. Actually, I'll get back to Jules' comment.
Mm-hmm.
The last 8 or 9 games of the season, you've got teams and players who are just out there skating automatically. They're like, whatever, we're ready for playoffs, or we're ready for the off season. And so Henry Thrun can thrive in a situation like that. It's the start of a new season. Everybody's going balls to the wall right now. Yeah. So if Henry Thrun can't hang yet, send him back to the AHL. Let him get his feet under him, I guess literally, and get a little bit more grounded and at a little bit of a easier pace. And I think he'll be just fine. And Jules said it in the chat. Let him blow up the AHL with Shakir Mukhamadullin.
Oh, I know. Like, I'm salivating at that pairing in the AHL.
I am too. Like, I guess Thrun would probably have to play the right side defense, but hey, better than right side Nick Cicek. Yeah, I said it. So by the way, Nick Cicek, nicest freaking guy. I swear to God. Like,
I'm sure.
Nicest guy. I was with 2 little kids at an autograph session afterwards. Hi, my name's Nick. What's your name? I'm like, wow. All right. You get a letter just for being the nicest freaking guy on the team. But do I like him on the right side defense? Let's get him back to the left. We'll put Thrun there. All will be right with the world.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I again, I'm salivating at the Mukhamadullin Thrun pairing because I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I just want one team to be fun, and I'd prefer it to be the Barracuda because the Sharks. I mean, if the Sharks are fun bad, it's okay. But we know what the Sharks' goal this season is, right? We know where things are going. So it's the Barracuda that need to be fun because again, like, and I think the one thing, like, obviously, like, there's still like very key parts of the Sharks rebuild that aren't on the Barracuda at this point. Beasted's playing over in Sweden. Havlid can't come over because of the SHL agreement. Like, he can't play in the AHL. And obviously Will Smith is still playing college games. So I think that but if it's hard for the Sharks to sell a future if the Barracuda are bad also. Like, I think the Barracuda need to be better this year. So, like, I don't, again, like, do I think Henry Thrun is probably better served in the NHL? Yes. But am I going to be angry that he's in the NHL? No, because I watch the Barracuda games and I need one of these teams to be fun.
Exactly. Plus, hey, San Jose's got an All-Star Classic coming here at the start of 2024. So let's make this team fun and enjoyable for fans to come out and watch on those random Wednesday nights, for example. So, You bring Henry Thrun. Heck, bring back William Eklund and Thomas Ford. Okay. I'm trying not to get lynched here,
Yeah,
but
I think Eklund would have to something would have to go terribly wrong. I think for Eklund to end
some
up
yeah,
packing it up,
honestly,
his
no
season would
reason
have to
William
go
Eklund should be
so
there.
off the rails. I think for him to get sent down at this
Yeah,
point.
no. Yeah, no, we definitely do not want William Eklund back with the Barracuda this season.
No,
That's for sure.
I'll take
But
Thomas Portolo though.
yeah, absolutely. Especially with, hopefully Tristan Robbins comes back soon, healthy. Nikita Ohotyuk, I know I saw that name in the chat earlier.
Yeah,
That guy him and Etu Makiniemi can never stay healthy. It's sad to say, but Ohotyuk plays such a physical game that I'm not surprised the guy's always banged up. But Artem Guriev, another
hmm
defenseman. I know Ian and I are on Artem Guriev, but he
I
is a
have
right side
concerns.
defenseman. So what's up?
I have concerns with Guriev.
Sure, but I
Right.
mean when you got Ohotyuk out, for example,
hmm
a guy like Guriev is nice to have going out and being very physical. Like
Yeah,
with
see,
the
he's a nasty. Guriev's a nasty mf'er and not in a good way. Like that's my concern with him is like I think, if you're looking at the wanting the Barracuda to play a more disciplined game, I don't know, I think Guriev's a nasty. Like Guriev's a guy who I think will grow on me, but if he was on any other team, I would hate him. Like I feel like he will probably grow on me as the Barracuda season
he
progresses, but
it's
like I think he's a nasty player in all the wrong ways.
it's the Scott Sabarin effect,
Yeah.
where it's like, well, Scott Sabarin's here, so most likely he won't be concussing our players, so that's positive. Guriev's the same type of player, but
Yeah, he's a nasty piece of work. Not the cleanest player. Yeah, again, like anytime I saw him in junior hockey, like he rubbed me the wrong way. Just not a nice player. And like I
yeah.
said, I think Barracuda fans will probably like him a lot because again, it's not your team that he is killing. And I think that as time goes on, like I said, he's a player that will probably grow on me. But from watching him in junior, I don't have a great taste in my mouth from watching him play.
All right, Ian. We were not trying to go through every player on the
No,
roster, but we somehow
we somehow
managed to do it.
managed.
Except for there is actually one name I'm looking here, Valtteri Puoli, 6'6". So
Um,
I don't have much to say so far about Valtteri Puoli other than I think he got a rough ride by the referee on a phantom high stick, but +3 and an assist through 2 games. I
yeah,
mean, for a mobile six
I
foot
think he's been
sixty,
fine.
yeah,
Again, I think there's some players where I think I need to see a bigger body of work before I really, like I was probably a little hard on Brandon Coe. I think, um,
sure,
AHL Luke Cunning's probably a little harsh, but we'll see.
sure.
I
And Leon Gavanka. That's the only. So now we have officially named
we've
every
officially.
player on the roster.
Yeah, and
Again,
again,
we're
I think fine. Again, I think that's a player that I want to see more of. But yeah,
yeah,
like um,
offensive player, offensive defenseman of the year in the AHL last year,
yeah,
and he signed a big 4-year contract in Germany, and then went back on that contract to come here. So I was curious to see if he would accept an assignment to the Barracuda, but
hmm
lo and behold, he is here with the team. I think he sees that he still has a shot at making the NHL team at
this
some
team has
point.
so many
Um,
defensemen.
there are so many defensemen, but hey, if you need a power play quarterback for the Sharks,
hmm
then Gavanka is one of the first names I think that they look into calling up. So looking at someone you could pair Henry Thrun with, that's the guy who jumps out to me. If you want to keep Thrun on that left side, you put him
Yeah,
with Gavanka, and I think that would be a pretty steady pair. So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like again, as guys get healthy, as guys start coming back into the lineup, it's gonna be interesting to see how, who kind of ends up where. But I think like so far, I mean, 2 games again, 1 win, 1 loss. Um, but I've liked I've liked what I've seen so far. Like I think like again, this Barracuda team has the potential to be a lot of fun for a team that I don't know what super to make of. I don't know how they're gonna match up against some of the other teams in the Pacific that I think are gonna be, a little. I think there's teams that are definitely going to get them fits in the Pacific that are definitely better teams because I think teams are in different, stages of their growth, of their rebuilds. And like again, like a team like you never know how a team like Coachella last year. It wasn't
Oh
because they
yeah.
had a bunch of, they just loaded up on a lot of really good veteran players and, definitely some prospects, some Kraken prospects in the mix there. But, a team that just kind of loaded up on veteran players that really carried them through.
Well, folks, we made it in an hour.
We did.
Unfortunately, Nick didn't make it with us tonight, but we'll be sure to have him on again.
Yeah.
We'll get
I
our.
do apologize. Obviously, like when we try to advertise something, we try to follow through on it. I'll take the blame here. You know what? I touched base with Nick, and I should have touched base with him again closer to go time, and I didn't. That's on me. So definitely, it's something that we will definitely reschedule. Something that we will do, and then we will go from there.
But you make sure you don't have a scheduling conflict by setting the bell and subscribing and setting those alerts and all that jazz. Throw up the graphic. Let's take it home.
Yeah. All right. If you missed the show, blah blah blah, you know the deal. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that wonderful fun stuff. And again, we will be back with you probably sooner than later again, hopefully with Nick Nolenberger. Keep track of everything else other than that, you know what, After Dark, Puck Knowledge, just all the other normal stuff that we do. And again, we definitely appreciate you guys being here with us, and we will see you next time.
Have an Easter egg.